Well, Ryan, thank you so much for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm 18. I just graduated high school from OES in Oregon here, and I'm taking a gap year right now to work on engineering projects and internships while sort of all the coronavirus stuff blows over. And then in 2021, I'll be going to Cal Poly and majoring in either mechanical engineering or electrical engineering.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the engineering projects you're doing during your gap year?
Yeah, so aerospace engineering is really my passion. I love things that fly, and so I build drones and rockets. Some of my drones that I build are up here on the wall, um,
Awesome.
and I compete in science fair competitions, or I did compete in science fair competitions throughout high school. And I've made it to the world international championships 4 times for a variety of projects, mostly drone and rocketry related. Um, and then 2 years ago, I won first in the world in the engineering mechanics category for my research on developing systems to autonomously land suborbital solid fueled launch vehicles. So uh, developing similar algorithms to the Falcon 9, but for much smaller launch vehicles. And my whole idea with that is that satellites and space payloads are getting smaller as technology gets smaller. And so, what if we can take some of that technology that's being used at the large orbital scale, like the Falcon 9, and scale it down to much smaller rockets that can maybe use solid fuel instead. And then I'm also working on thrust vector controlled TVC rockets.
Oh,
So
wow. That's really
um,
tall.
yeah, I can barely fit it in the frame here. The nose cone broke last night from a parachute ejection test, but in here,
Is it made out of aluminum?
this is just the standard hobby rocket airframes,
Okay.
but I'm going to be wrapping my own carbon fiber frames pretty soon. Um, this is a flight computer that I've developed here. It's
Oh, that's
all
awesome. Is this
on
like with
a
the BPS? You're part of that group?
So yeah, yeah. I actually found out about you through. I think you posted something there, and I'm all in with them building TVC rockets and flight computers and whatnot.
That is awesome. We've been wanting to do like a high altitude balloon project
Mm,
with our
uh-huh,
North Houston Space Society. It's kind of like a project, and
mhm,
retrieving the package after the balloon pops and you have the parachute and what have you seems like
uh-huh.
a real pain and challenging, especially with uh, you know um, the amount of gun ownership and things like that.
Yeah, yep, that's for sure. Where do you live?
Houston, Texas.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Um, I mean, a high altitude balloon is something that I've been wanting to do actually since like middle school. Um, and in Oregon, we're fortunate enough here to have Eastern Oregon where it's all just like fields. But yeah, I've kind of struggled with the how would I find it afterwards problem as well.
How far away are you from Bend?
It's about a 3 hour drive to Bend or so. Um, there's a high powered launch site. Actually, let me show you this. I got one of my high powered rockets up on the wall there.
Oh,
That's
wow.
this one's about it's hard to see scale, but there's like a hand for
Yeah.
scale.
How high
um,
does it go?
so I actually haven't launched it yet because I built it right at the like end of March, kind of. And I was like, oh great, school's closing down for a little bit. I'll have time to go launch my big rocket and whatnot. And then turns out all the launch sites closed down for non-members, and so I haven't been able to launch it yet. But depending on the motor that I put in it, it can go at least 3,000 feet or so,
Wow.
probably higher. Um, it's not. It was my first high-powered build, so it's not super advanced or anything. But I'd love to get it into more high-powered stuff going forward.
Yeah, with the high altitude balloon, I was wondering what the payload uh, capacity for your drone was, because I mean,
Hmm.
why not make the payload for that's attached to the balloon actually go into like a drone mode after the balloon
Oh,
pops and have it fly back to where you want it?
Yeah. That was actually I proposed that exact idea as a research project when I was a sophomore, and my teachers thought it was too crazy, so they didn't let me do it. But my idea was to build a fixed wing that would go up with the balloon, and then the fixed wing would basically just be a glider, and it would have the GPS coordinate of wherever the home point was, or it would have an array of fields where it could land at if it couldn't make it all the way back to the home point. Um, and it would essentially just find the glide slope and glide back down to wherever it could land as close as possible to the home point. And I think that's a real commercial possibility because I don't know if you're familiar with how many radio zones launch every day on weather balloons. There are, I can't remember the exact numbers. There are like thousands of radio zones that launch every single day.
Now, you
Um,
said radio zone?
Oh, yeah, radio zones. So these are high altitude balloon packages that weather agencies like the NOAA and all those launch on weather balloons so that they can get data all the way up to near space. And all that data is absolutely necessary to predict the weather at the ground level. And so these things are being launched every day all over the world. And all of them essentially just parachute back down and they end up in the ocean or in a field somewhere or in a forest in the top of a tree where they're never seen again. And so there's a ton of pollution from them. And there's a ton of, I mean, they have it factored into their budget to build these disposable devices. So, they're, I mean, they're still $100 to $200 a piece, I think. And so, I mean, these huge agencies, they can afford that. They kind of factor that into their budget. They're like, oh, we're going to be losing $100 package a day by getting this data, but that's what they pay for. And so, I've been thinking, or actually, I was thinking in sophomore year, really quite a bit at the time. I was like, what if I can build a fixed wing plane where they just take this exact radio sound that they're already using, fit it into the plane, and then they can reuse it, and they're not spending any money on it. They're spending a little bit of a electrical cost charging the battery of the plane, but in the grand scheme of things, they're saving a huge amount of money when that's compounded over a year or a decade of them sending these devices up. Um, so yeah, I think there's a real possibility with using drones to bring high altitude balloon packages back.
Have you thought about maybe using like active guidance with the parachute? You know, I mean, how you can like pull the corners in with like some servos and.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I haven't ever worked on anything like that other than just kind of dreaming about it. But I think the parachute system would be real cool. I'd also love to do that just on a rocket, just for fun.
Oh, right.
Because
After you get to the apogee, be able to kind
mhm,
of steer it back. That might be a good place to start.
yeah. Like last my I ran a team in high school that competed in the American Rocketry Challenge. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but we build rockets that carry specific payloads, and we get judged based on how high they go and how long they stay in the air, et cetera, et cetera. And last year for our first launch, the winds were right up at their maximum speed. Our maximum we can launch in is about 20 miles an hour. It was like 17, 18 miles an hour this day. And that's the most ones I've ever launched a rocket in. And so we sent it up, goes past apogee, comes down a little bit, parachute deploys, and the wind just carries it like half a mile,
Hmm.
maybe more. I mean, we were out walking around in the field for like an hour trying to find this rocket, and we finally found it in some like ditch down by a stream. But if we had the little like parachute controlling mechanism on it, we could probably bring it closer back, and kind of sail up through the wind like a boat would do, and that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be neat. But I was also thinking, as you were talking, I was reminded that like Rocket Labs and United Launch Alliance, they both plan to use helicopters to retrieve part or all of their rocket out of the
Oh,
air while it's coming back.
is ULA doing that too?
They're planning to for their Vulcan
Really?
rocket that's coming up, and
Oh, no
not the
way.
whole rocket, just the engines. So they call it
Yeah.
smart reusability, but they're planning
Mhm.
to have their engines parachute back and be able to
Huh.
grab them out of the air.
That's pretty cool because I remember them talking about how they were thinking of trying to figure out some way to reuse just the engines because apparently that's like 90% of the cost or something like that. Like the airframe of the fuel tanks is kind of just aluminum or whatever. And I remember seeing proposals for them putting like wings on the engine or something like that and trying to land it. But I like the helicopter idea. A, a I'd say I'm a fan of the idea. Um, I think that it's just cool technology. I think it's kind of going to have the SpaceX vibe where like people are going to see a rocket being caught in the middle of the air using a helicopter, and they're going to be like, "Wow, that's cool." And that's something that's necessary for space flight nowadays, I think.
It just seems so dangerous. I mean, you got those rotors above you, and then somehow you're going to be able to get over the thing as it's parachuting down. It's just, I'm
Yeah,
just wondering how that's going to work.
I mean, the way I understand it is that the vehicle or the engines when they're under the parachute they're almost on a glide slope, so they're moving forward faster than they are moving down. And for that, I could see how a helicopter with a sufficiently long hook on the bottom or whatever could kind of keep their altitude with it. And if it was just like a parachute coming straight down, then that would be a tricky timing. You get a thermal on the parachute, and next thing you know, you're right at the parachute level. Um, but I have quite a bit of confidence that safety is going to be not a crazy factor with this. Um, like I can see it being safer than some other things in the whole launch cycle.
And but I guess to the point, you have the drones and you have the rockets with the parachutes. Any thoughts about kind of doing your own little in-flight recovery?
Yeah, people have suggested that quite a bit, and I've thought about it. Propulsive landing has been kind of my whole passion over the past couple of years. Um, I I'm going to share my screen real quick and just show you. Oh wait, let's see. The screen sharing is disabled.
Oh,
Never mind.
I
It's fine.
can I enable it? Let's see.
I think you might be.
I think I can make you a co-host. That'll
Oh,
work.
okay.
I'll do that.
Yeah, I was just gonna play a
Great.
video with. Oh, sweet. There we go. Okay, cool. Let me do this. And I'll just show you one video of my landing tests. So for my testing, I actually pull it up on a drone.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And
Look at that.
this,
Oh, that was amazing.
thanks.
Yeah, now it's just about iterating over it, right?
Yeah, uh-huh. So I've got my algorithm that burns off extra fuel by moving the vehicle back and forth. Um, and yeah, now it's just iterating on it. Let's see, let me get back to Zoom. Maybe.
Oh, yeah, I think it
Oh,
goes.
there we
Oh,
go.
you got it. Okay, cool.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, propulsive landing for me is just like the coolest thing that could be achieved at this scale. And I have a tendency to try to like just work on the coolest things I can think of, even if they're like really far out there. And but it, I mean, it's cool, but it's also incredibly hard. And so if I have some time going forward in the next year, I might also try to work on catching the rocket with the drone as well.
That's really awesome. So your plan is actually be, work on the vehicle that takes people to and from space. That's
So the idea with my research with the propulsive landing stuff is that space payloads and experiments are getting smaller. Our phones are getting smaller, our computers are getting smaller, And a lot of that is also happening with satellites and experiments, because now we can build a Starlink satellite to be just this flat wafer, whereas we used to have a whole school bus size satellite to achieve that same thing. And so we're seeing sort of this rise in smaller launch vehicles like Electron. And so I was thinking, right now Electron's a disposable vehicle and we're moving towards catching it with a parachute. But what if we could take the helicopter out of the whole equation there? Like you're saying, might be dangerous. I don't know. I'm not an expert on on parachute catching. Um, and what if we could have a solid fuel motor in the vehicle that could be used for re-landing, maybe in conjunction with that parachute as well. So maybe the parachute can provide can pull off most of that energy on re-entry, just how it does now. But for just the last part of landing, what if we can use that solid fuel motor to have a soft touchdown? So when the parachute deploys on Electron, the inverted like drag chute before it gets to the paracel, it's still going to be moving at a pretty high velocity coming down. And it's hard, or it would be almost impossible to just deploy landing legs and have it land down. So, what if we combine that parachute descent in the first part with sort of Falcon 9's soft touchdown with a propulsive landing? And so I've been sort of combining those ideas and just building this flight software, this flight computer, competing in science fair competitions with it. And doing all that. So I don't know where it's going to go from here. Right now in my gap year, it's kind of just like a portfolio building piece. My whole goal of the gap year before I go to college is to build my portfolio of engineering projects and internships that I've worked on. Because like through the BPS space Discord, I've made a ton of great friends with people who work at NASA and who work in the industry. And all of them say, build your portfolio young so that when you go apply for jobs, not only do you have sort of the engineering education background, but you have something that a lot of people don't have, which is actually taking that knowledge and applying it to the real world. And so my goal is to build rockets, build drones, build things that's like real engineering that I can put on my portfolio. And so the propulsive landing stuff is just kind of one small part of that.
I mean, that sounds wonderful. I mean, so many people learn like calculus, but it's like in an abstract way, and they can't act as like, how will I ever use this or what have you? Or they learn, all sorts of little bitty pieces of it, but it's out of context. I mean, what you're doing really brings that together in a practical, demonstratable way.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a very, very tactile, hands-on learner. And so I love to take stuff that I learned from school and actually like use it, because I find that I understand it at such a deeper level at that point. I finished BC calculus this year, and at the end of the class, a lot of the things were still really abstract to me. And I didn't have time during the school year to work on a whole lot of external projects because obviously school and everything. But then over the summer, and now I've taken more stuff that I've learned from BC Calc and put it into the rocket, and like I can actually understand it at a fundamental level now, which like it feels so great to actually be able to understand at that level.
Yeah, I mean, you got like the actual flight experience, the conceptualizing, getting the bill of materials, building it, testing it, flying it, seeing the end
Yep.
results, and then communicating about it. It's like the whole thing.
Communication's so important. There's so many people I know that will build crazy awesome things, but won't share it with the world. And so one of my goals recently has been to build my Twitter following, because I think Twitter is an incredibly important place and useful place to network and make connections and meet people. And so my goal has been to just every couple days find something that I can put on Twitter, share it out there, and use that as a platform to make connections with people, meet people, network, all that good stuff.
What's your Twitter handle?
It is RS Westcott.
RS Westcott.
Yeah, Westcott.
Rstwestcott.
Let's see. Let me just double
Is
check
there
that.
like underscore or something?
Nope. It's just Rstwestcott.
Hmm.
There should be a picture of me.
Oh, I wonder if I'm, sometimes whenever you're like looking at somebody else's profile, it just searches in their tweets.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so apparently well, no, that didn't work either. Well, anyway, I'm Gadget Nate, Gadget Nate. And if you want to like send me a tweet or something,
Oh,
that
yeah,
might
yeah.
be easier for me.
There we go. All right, let me follow you. Um, and let me just send.
Oh, there you are. Yes. Okay.
Oh, perfect.
Excellent. Got you.
All right, cool.
Beautiful. Done. Okay. Yeah, that's really awesome.
Thank you.
So in terms of your peers, would you say that your peer group is like very similar to you in terms of tactile learning and actually getting out there doing engineering things, or would you say that you're very unique?
I think that there's this great quote. I forgot who said it, but they say that you're the average of the five people you spend the most time with. I mean, of course, you're your own person, but you draw a lot on the people that are around you. And I think that I've ended up surrounding myself with people who are also very tactile, hands-on, like to do things. Um, and so my two best friends, they're both engineering mindseted people also, and they also like to build things and do things. And I guess I love surrounding myself with that energy because it can kind of help me take out more of my own energy, and put it into these projects and ideas and grow things like that. And so I don't think I'm super unique in that terms. I think that I am around people like that as well. But I think it's important to find people like that, find people that can help you draw your own energy out.
Yeah, and definitely people who can kind of appreciate what you're doing and the effort,
Hmm.
as opposed to, some people might be surrounded by people who are like, well, what's the point of that? You'll never send it into orbit. People have already
Yeah.
done, I mean, it's just, I mean, who you have around you can
Hmm.
can really accelerate or de-accelerate you.
Yeah. And that's like one of the reasons why I love the BPS Discord, because the reason right now that I'm building this my fifth iteration of my thrust vector controlled rocket is because I found them basically. And I wasn't really planning on coming back to this just high school science fair project over my gap year, but then I started talking to them, and I don't know if you're familiar with Arsenio, one of the mods on the server. He's a great guy, super smart. And he also took a gap year. Apparently, he took multiple gap semesters here and there. And he was the first guy who told me, like, build your portfolio of real projects. And he was like, it doesn't matter whether it's TVC rockets or an internship or something, just build things that you can get real world experience with and that people will look at and say, wow, that's like solid engineering, real world engineering. And so, once he said that, I kind of realized like, oh, wow, this is essentially just a model rocket, but in the inside, it's real engineering. The flight computer, I'm building real control algorithms for it. And it's something that I can put on my portfolio. And I think it's something that would make me an attractive candidate for a job sometime in the future. And so, I guess coming back to what you said about how it's important to have those people around you, the BPS Discord is a group of people that definitely I can connect with and say, I'm building this part of a rocket or this algorithm or something, and they'll say, oh wow, that's cool. And it's great to have that feedback from other people who are doing similar things.
No, definitely. And I think the world would be a much better place if more people were able to find that and sought
Hmm.
it out and provided it for each other. It's like
Hmm.
having the thing is, all the problems that we have in the world are like man-made, and there's like so many,
Yeah.
or not man-made, but human-made. See,
Hmm.
I'm including the girls
Exactly.
in
Yeah.
on making the problems too.
Yep. That is important.
Yeah. Uh, but I mean, we can take care of the garbage problem in like the
Mhm.
ocean. We can take care of the energy thing. We can take care of all these things. All we have to do is decide to actually solve it instead of just talking about it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think solving those starts with people within communities who are really passionate about solving those particular problems, coming together, talking about it, finding people who are equally as passionate. And the internet is such a powerful tool nowadays to make that happen, because there is a community for almost any interest or any passion. Reddit is great. uh, Discord with these new Patreon groups coming together on this platform, phenomenal. Twitter is phenomenal for finding people who have those same mindsets. I'm very grateful to grow up in this age, I think.
I am too. It can be a little bit overwhelming too. I experience, FOMO all the time, fear of missing out.
Hmm.
And like I need to
Yeah,
be a member of 200 communities and I have to keep up with all these people. And it's just like,
yeah.
you at some point you just have to, kind of shut out the opportunity costs and say, okay, this is my community. I'm going to go with it as far and as deep and as best I can. And that's that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I'm fortunate to grow up in this age, but it also comes with costs and skills that you have to grow specifically for it. And I think it's exciting because we're kind of the first generation to really have to understand these new skills using this abstract tool called the internet that no one has had before and no one knows how to deal with at a social or a yeah, I mean, I guess really just a social level.
Yeah, no, indeed. And what you're kind of reminding me of, I first became aware of the internet in high school, which
Hmm.
was like between 90 and 94 for me. So like
Uh-huh.
92, I got onto the internet, which was really weird because we were all doing BBS and dial-ups at the time.
Mm, uh-huh.
Uh, but a friend's father of mine uh, went to a local university that they had their modem banks hooked directly up to the network. And then people would like dial in and then telnet to wherever they want it to go.
Oh, uh-huh.
So, and there was this place in that offer free shell accounts. And so I was
Hmm.
able to get like a free shell account. So I could dial in for free and
Uh-huh.
then like, telling that over to this place and have like my little shell and do emails and stuff. And it felt like my little special club, because,
Uh-huh.
you had to like know the secret handshake to get into it and
Uh-huh.
what have you. But, then the internet became like this marketing thing and
Uh-huh.
this whole thing. And it like, lost that specialness. But what you're describing here of like the BPS Discord server, it's sort of
Hmm.
like that little place still there. It's just kind of gotten deeper and deeper and deeper.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So in addition to building rockets, any thoughts on actually writing one?
Uh, I would I would love to. Um, I think that this is something that's always been in the back of my mind, that space would be a really cool place to be one day. I think that I've always sort of had a passion for exploration and seeing new places, and even just jumping in the car and going somewhere. I love to bring my Mavic with me, my drone, and film things from the air. I love to bring my camera and take pictures and just explore. And I think that the ultimate exploration of mankind as a whole is exploring space, and moving off our little island of a planet here. And I think that if I had to create a perfect future, I think that when I'm maybe in my 40s or 50s, something like that, I would love to ride Starship to Mars. I think that would be really cool. Um, in terms of different rockets to ride on, I think it's hard to say, because with engineering, these vehicles are constantly evolving. Um, I think that Starship is marketed as kind of the vehicle of the future, and so a lot of people like that. I subscribe to that ideology, I guess, as well. And so, I think I also just love SpaceX. I'm a, I've always loved them. I love what they do. And I think it would be really cool to ride on one of their vehicles one day. That would be cool.
And you would go as far as Mars. Would you come back?
Um, I think eventually I would like to come back. I think I'd like it to be a two-way trip. Elon says I'd love to die on Mars, just not on impact. And I think that I would like to die back on Earth, just not on impact. And I think there's something special about going on an adventure somewhere. But coming back home always has sort of that nice feeling of you're back in someplace comfortable, and you have gone on this journey, experienced this far out place, but you're still grounded back where and you're comfortable. And so I think I don't know if I would put it out of the question if I only had the opportunity for a one-way trip, whether it be the moon or Mars or wherever else, Titan. But I think I would prefer it to be a two-way trip.
Yeah, I also think, all those people were like signing up for the Mars One project a few years
Mhm.
ago saying no, they would go on
Yeah.
a one-way trip to Mars.
Uh-huh.
I I wonder how many of them after this whole COVID situation would still, they might be like, staying in this little confined house is like a little difficult. Being in a capsule.
Yeah. Yeah. No, COVID was a perfect example of what space flight travel is similar to, I guess. You're in one enclosed space, and with the same other people, few other people. For me, it's my two parents. Um, and figuring out how to live with these other people and operate and stay energized in your own little space. um, it's a challenge for sure. Like I said, I like running, and so not being able to get outside and exert that physical energy for a little bit. I mean, once it cleared up here after a little while, I was able to just wear my mask around my neck, and whenever I ran past other people, pull it up. But there was a little bit of time where it's like, man, staying in this enclosed space is not super fun. But I think a lot of the time I kind of had in the back of my mind, oh, this is what a trip in space would be like. And once I kind of thought of that, it kind of made it fun. But it's tough for sure.
I did one of those zero G flights a few years
Oh,
back.
really? No
Yeah,
way.
yeah, me and my two
How'd you
sons went.
how'd you get involved in that? Did someone
It's
invite you, or
no,
is it a commercial?
it's just a commercial money
Oh,
thing.
really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Huh. That's awesome.
Yeah, and one thing that we did was like the hamster wheel, where you use your hands to crawl around the inside of the plane like a loop.
Uh-huh.
But running is something I'm like wishing I tried.
Oh yeah, man, that's super cool. What was the coolest part of it? I'm curious.
The coolest part, I would say, is doing flips. And if you
Uh-huh.
close your eyes, you don't even know you're turning. But if you open your
Huh.
eyes, you can see because you have,
Uh-huh.
you're like spinning, but there's no sense of direction whatsoever. So that
Uh-huh.
so like the last parabola, or maybe it's the second last, um,
Uh-huh.
one of the zero G coaches had put some water in the air, and
Oh,
the water
really?
forms up into like a perfect sphere, right? And
Uh-huh.
it's just like there, and you could drink it or whatever. But it's like magical, and the moment it touches something, it's like the surface tension is just like,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so I thought that was kind of really cool.
Huh.
Yeah.
That sounds super cool.
And they always describe in like science fiction books about your stomach being upset and throwing up and all this other
Uh-huh.
stuff. And maybe that happens after the 30-second mark, because each
Uh-huh.
parabola you only get like 30 seconds of weightlessness. They do like
Uh-huh.
15, so you get a total of like
Oh,
7 to 8 minutes.
wow. Uh-huh.
Um, but I didn't have any problem with, like, I didn't
Huh.
feel anything at all. So I think that must
Huh.
happen in like maybe a minute or two in or something.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Huh. So do you work in the engineering industry?
I don't. I'm a big space fan, space cadet. That's what I am.
Oh,
I
that's awesome.
whenever I graduated from high school, the internet was just taking off.
Uh-huh.
And I got sucked up in the whole internet software thing, and then just
Uh-huh.
did software jobs. And now I'm still working for a software company. And
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, and the space thing is like, sort of like the path that I dreamed about. So
Uh-huh. And you're trying to interview someone every single day until 2024.
the end of 2024, which
In
is
the 2024. That's
which is
crazy.
the year that we're supposed to land people on the moon. And actually, I can't take full credit for that time frame because Doug Laverio, I don't know if you've heard of him.
I haven't, no.
Well, he was the associated administrator that was responsible for getting us to the moon. He was hired like last November.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, there was like some improprieties with some contracting stuff, and he
Mm.
was let go in May, I think, right before
Mm.
the Dragon flight. But he had a
Uh-huh.
lapel pin with like the number
Uh-huh.
of days to the end of 2024. And so that's
That's
what
awesome.
gave me the idea for this. And so now
Oh,
he's
uh-huh.
no longer doing that, but now I'm stuck with my project.
That's awesome. So, do you think that we're going to land in 2024?
I think it's very possible, but maybe not the way that we're thinking of. Um,
Mm.
I mean, SLS and Orion, those have been behind schedules, and
Mm.
they're still just testing them. And Artemis 1's been pushed to late 2021. If they find
Mm-hmm.
something that needs a lot of rework, there's really no time to do that. But then on
Uh-huh.
the other side of it, I mean, SpaceX and Starship, I mean, it could happen. I mean,
Hmm.
their moon's supposed to happen in 2023, taking those artists and the Japanese
Man,
billionaire around
yeah,
the moon. So,
that's crazy.
uh,
Yeah, Starship has been incredible to watch develop. I love how just like I don't even know how to put it into words. Just like how raw SpaceX is with it. Like they just have this idea and they're just rapidly building and prototyping and developing and creating things, even if it's not like the perfect spaceship yet. And it's so cool to see that happen. So cool.
yeah, and they're also building like an entire workforce, right? People
Mhm.
who used to be making water towers and building buildings and what have you are now building spaceship parts.
Yeah.
And they're kind of figuring that all out, and they're building like a team of people doing operational thing. I mean, the person that's like uh, you know, has done 100 firings is going to have a lot more down pat than the guy that did like two or three. So
Yep.
just kind
Yeah.
of excited.
The development's really cool to see. Um, do you think, do you have an opinion on which lander is the best
Oh my
in
gosh.
just a general sense, I guess?
Well, I I'm pleasantly surprised by all of them as
Uh-huh.
time goes on. Just on Friday, the AIAA, which I think is like the
Hmm.
American Institute of
Uh,
Astronautical
and aeronautics.
Aeronautics,
Yeah.
so
Uh-huh.
they had like a conference where Dianetics was going and showing their lander, and it was like
Uh-huh.
it was a full-scale mock-up of what the lander would be like, so they could figure out, the human factors thing and kind of work through, is there enough room for the guy with the spacesuit to actually get in and out of the
Uh-huh.
lander, that type of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and the Blue Moon, I mean, sorry, not the Blue Moon, but the national team, which
Uh-huh.
Blue Origin's heading up. They delivered a full-scale mock-up to the Johnson Space Center a few weeks ago.
Oh, really? Hmm.
Yeah, and it's like the same type of thing, meant to just, hey, this once you know what you're getting into. Yeah, it's like,
Uh-huh.
uh,
Yeah.
but and then you haven't really seen anything from SpaceX, but the fact that they're sort of in a running is kind of a cool thing.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that have very strong opinions on SLS, not SLS, spaceship, not or Starship, not Starship, and I think I see it on Twitter a lot. And my opinion is that all of the landers and spacecraft and everything being developed today kind of need each other to work, because the reality with engineering is that there's almost never one solution that is the best. And especially when you factor in the economics of everything, of NASA being this government organization, and SpaceX and all these other companies being private companies. Um, it all they all work together, and that's why I kind of get frustrated when people have debates about, Starship is bad, SLS is bad, it's running behind schedule, whatever. The reality to me, I think, is that you need every single one of them because they push each other forward. You have SpaceX that has this economic, or yeah, I guess economic pressure on them to develop solutions that are feasible at a business scale and will generate revenue. And then you have NASA, who doesn't really have that economic pressure to build financially viable systems because they have government funding. And those kind of work together, because you have SpaceX, which is forced to create incredible hardware and incredible systems and reliable systems, and you have funding from NASA that can power those systems, and then those systems go back and benefit NASA, and then it's kind of this whole cycle of things. And now that we have even more landers, and the whole Artemis program and everything running, it's an exciting time to see it all come together.
It is, and
Sure.
I totally agree with you. I think one like additional point that's worth highlighting though is sort
Uh-huh.
of how do you win the competition, right? I mean, if
Uh-huh.
you win the competition by actually doing the engineering thing or the exploration thing, then that's great. As many teams we can have them go full bore. But
Uh-huh.
uh, you know, I think the leadership at Lockheed Martin and Boeing
Mm-hmm.
measure their success very differently than Blue Origin and
Mm.
SpaceX.
Uh-huh.
I think the leadership of Lockheed Martin and Boeing, for example, would
Mm-hmm.
be very happy not going anywhere if it still made money.
Mm.
And that's
I
the
can see
part
that.
that really drives me up the wall with
Yeah.
it's not the engineers, because I really feel like
Mm-hmm.
they want to go and they want to go safely and they want to go as best they
Uh-huh.
can. It's sort of
Yeah.
like the overall, I mean, like and then there's like the whole political aspect of that, right? I mean, in order to get
Yeah.
NASA to get the money, the right officials have to get elected. Those people want the jobs, and these particular companies to get the business, and
Uh-huh.
it creates this whole kind of counter incentive where it's not about exploring, it's not about engineering, it's about
Mm-hmm.
you know, am I getting the jobs in my district that I want? And that seems bad.
Exactly. And exactly what you're saying there. I see that being showing up in all areas of our world nowadays. From companies that used to be focused on building great products are now moving to how can we generate the most revenue from these products. Companies that used to uh, develop environmentally stable products and workflows are now kind of putting that at risk, for generating profit and things like that. And it's really sucks to see it in the space industry, because all the people who are building these things, those are all the people who are have always dreamed of going to space, and who dream of building spaceships for a living, and they're the people who want to be out there. But then all the way at the top is where you have, I mean, this is just my opinion. This might differ in the real world, but I feel like at the top you have the people who don't necessarily have those same dreams as all the engineers. They're sort of the corporate people who work there because they have the business skills to generate profit, or lead a team. And I feel like they will oftentimes lack sort of that same drive and desire and passion that a lot of the engineers have, which sucks. But I guess that's business.
Doesn't have to be. I mean, I think
Yeah.
SpaceX is going to be profitable, and
Uh,
I think they're
well,
going to put Boeing and Lockheed out of business in terms of launch.
yeah, and I guess I also should have said that SpaceX is a big exception to that because Elon is the nerdiest space explorer you can get. I mean, he has watched every single sci-fi movie or book or whatever about going to space, and I love his drive and his motives behind things. He can be a real wacky guy at points, but I always kind of see him as like a little bit of an immature child. Like he's still not totally sure how to act in public and speak at presentations and things like that. But inside, he knows that he loves space and he would love to see people go to space. And you know, even just with how he runs Tesla and everything, and open sourcing battery technology and things like that, you can tell that he's one of those guys who really wants to see improvements in the world, not just sort of this short-term monetary gain or popularity gain.
Yeah, real fundamental capabilities as opposed to kind of rehashing existing capabilities just to monetize them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I found out a couple of days ago, and I probably wouldn't have given this much thought, except I know some of the players involved. Have you heard of something called Space Hero?
Space Hero, no.
Okay, and I only saw this like a couple of days ago, so that's not
Huh.
surprising. But
Uh-huh.
there's this group of people that are working together on putting an unscripted reality TV show together, where the winner
Huh.
goes to the ISS for 10 days.
No way.
Yeah. Now,
I, I gotta look this up real quick.
well, they're still in like their formation stage, but it's
Uh-huh.
spacehero.me, and there's a few little articles about it. Um, but like Dr. Moraba Jah, he's a professor at University of Texas in Austin. He's like their evangelist, space evangelist guy. He came and spoke at our last month's North Houston Space Society meeting,
Huh.
and Axiom Aerospace, has a contract with SpaceX for a private crew flight to the International Space Station, talking
Uh-huh.
about doing something, and with like Tom Cruise filming a film completely independent of this,
Oh yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
some other stuff. So, and I know some of the people over there at Axiom from trying to get speakers for my North Houston Space Society thing. So, I feel like the players are like legit, but I think my feeling that I get is that they're at the point where they're like putting together ideas and trying to show some initial interest to go out there and get like the sponsors to
Mm.
actually make it
Uh-huh.
happen. Um,
Yeah.
so, but it's kind of interesting. I mean, I would do it. I,
Yeah, that's super interesting. I would do that too.
and I think it could be a
100%.
good way to spur a lot of interest in it. I mean, it's one
Yeah.
thing to say, should we be going to space, as opposed to, should you be going to space?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm all for the ideas of trying to use popular culture, I guess, with reality TV shows or whatever it is, trying to build cool things or create cool things to drive interest. I'm all for that. I think that's marketing space as a whole is kind of critical to the future.
But I've been trying to think through. I mean, it's all about, whenever it comes to like reality TV shows or any type of show, it's all about viewership and marketing. And,
Hmm.
I mean, that's like the engine that drives the business.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, why would people watch a space reality
Mm.
TV show? And I have a few thoughts, and I was wondering if you had some more. One is, just pure spectacle of it. I mean,
Uh-huh.
uh, and then second of all, if they felt like that person in the show represented them somehow, because they're planning to
Mm.
make it a kind of like a worldwide contest. So a lot of countries
Uh-huh.
that don't have space flight capability, or no astronauts, never send anybody to space. I mean, can you
Uh-huh.
imagine you know, like Brazil, for example,
Yeah.
you would have like Space Hero Brazil, and this is like the Brazilian
Hmm.
candidate might get to go to, I mean, I can see people turning there. And the third thing is, if they did it as a routine basis, like yearly, people might tune in to say, oh, what I need to do in order for me to be there, that type of thing,
Mm.
like the whole
Uh-huh.
Jeopardy type. Uh, thing. So, but I was
Yeah.
wondering if you thought of some other reasons.
Um, that's a good question. I mean, I think I guess reality TV shows are driven on the basis that the people on the other end are, I guess, related in some way to you. Like the viewers can relate to them, but the people on the other end are doing something that you don't. Well, no, I guess it's not necessarily something that you don't have to do. Um, I don't know. I guess I don't watch reality
Yeah, me,
TV shows
me,
that
me
much,
neither. I'm
so
like,
I guess on the viewership side of things, I'm not totally sure.
I
It's
like
a good
I
question though.
totally don't understand the audience. Like I
Yeah.
mean, I get that's a thing, and I would love to take advantage of it for my own purposes. But you
Uh-huh.
know, I probably would not watch it myself because
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's an interesting combination of things. I feel like a lot of spaceflight people don't watch reality TV as much as people who watch reality TV, and people who watch reality TV probably aren't as into spaceflight as spaceflight people. But I mean, I think there have been times before when we have seen things combined like that. I mean, I guess MythBusters isn't reality TV, but it's a show that made engineering and science popular. And I think that, maybe if they didn't film it in quite like the full reality TV style, but as just a show that could be on the Science Channel or something like that, that could definitely garnish a lot of attention.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's also another thing is there have definitely been some shows that have cheapened the concept of reality TV.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. That's for sure.
So when did you find out that we were going to the moon in 2024?
Um, I mean, I stay pretty updated with stuff just through Twitter, I guess. And so, I mean, I've seen a lot of dates thrown around. I'm still not totally convinced that we're going to be on the surface in 2024. That uh, My estimate is probably going to be like more 2026, 2028. Um, just from, I guess, my experience in seeing things get delayed. I mean, there's always delays with this type of stuff. Um, but I think I've seen 2024 bounced around quite a bit just on the internet, probably over the past like maybe year or so. I've seen 2024 as a rather predominant estimate. And I probably see 2024 more than any other number. But my guess is that it's going to be a little later, not like in a pessimistic way, just in like it's engineering and delays happen, and it's almost always impossible to predict all those problems that will come up. And chances are it's going to be a little later.
And the 2024 date comes from a March 2019 meeting of the National Space Council,
Mm.
where
Uh-huh.
um, where Mike Pence directed NASA to get there in 2024, land
Mm-hmm.
the first woman and the next man on the South Pole of the moon by 2024. So that's kind of
Uh-huh.
the. So it's actually official policy at the moment.
Really? Huh. All
My
right.
project's going to become a lot more convoluted if it changes.
Yeah. Have you interviewed someone so far every single day?
Every single day,
Almost
yeah.
every single day. Wow,
Every
that is
since the middle
awesome.
of December. So like
That,
close to 265 or so at this point.
wow, that is crazy. And is this going to be like a video at the end, or like what's the, I guess, the format?
Right now I publish the unedited versions of the interview on my website, countdowntothemoon.org.
Oh, awesome.
And then I have a person that goes through and creates like little weekly summaries. But
Oh, that's super cool.
yeah, but I I really haven't figured it out. It's right now I'm just kind of just filling out the space, trying to stay on top of the daily thing, which
Uh-huh. That's
it's
super cool.
it requires a lot of attention. But
Yeah, I bet.
um, Have you heard about the Commercial Lunar Payload Services Program?
I don't think I have. No.
Okay, so NASA selected 15 companies to deliver um, bid on twice annual like work orders to deliver things to the surface of the moon. So like
Huh.
scientific experiments and rovers
Uh-huh.
and that type of thing. And the first two people that are going to be landing on part of the moon will be next summer, Astrobotic in Pittsburgh and Intuitive Machines in
Huh.
Houston. Both of them will be landing on
Uh-huh.
the moon next year. But as part of the program, like NASA is just paying for package delivery. So they tell these
Huh.
providers, get this to this point on the moon and we'll pay you
Uh-huh.
this much money. That's it. The
Huh.
provider has to create the lander, schedule the launch. And oh, by the way, if there's any spare capacity, they're free to do whatever they want to with that. And
Huh.
Astrobotics is doing a promotion with DHL, the package delivery.
Uh-huh.
And you can send like a dime-sized thing to the moon for
Huh.
460 bucks. So my
That's
plan
awesome.
is to take all these videos, put them on a micro SD card, and send them to
Oh,
the
that'd be
moon
cool.
next summer. So uh,
That's awesome.
I don't know, radiation, heat, and cold, and all that good stuff probably will destroy the
Uh-huh.
SD card, but still, but also the humans in the future will have this amazingly advanced technology that can reconstruct a broken SD card. So
Yeah, that would be awesome if the space radiation hasn't completely destroyed all the data. That would be awesome to see it be recreated one day on the moon.
yeah, it'd be neat. And that's actually kind of how I kind of think about this project. Is I feel like the 2020s are going to be to space what the 1990s were to the internet.
I hope
And
so.
in 2030, I think our concept of space as a place to do business and work and live is going to
Hmm.
be, um, our thoughts about it are going to be completely different. And so I see this as being like a time capsule for like future generations to look back
Mm.
right before. It's like, if you were interviewing people in Europe right before Christopher Columbus came over, you know,
Uh-huh.
you're
Yeah,
like, hey, so do you think this is it, or do you think the world is round, or you think we go to India
that's
that way? Like,
awesome.
what do you think? That type of thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
and so I kind of envision like this high schooler, like born on the moon, having to do a term paper about what were people thinking, and this be like
Yeah,
her resource
that's
to do that
awesome.
paper. So
That's super cool.
imagine if you could speak to that high schooler right now. What would you want to tell them?
Oh man, that is awesome. It literally feels like I'm in a time machine now. Um, if I had to say something, I think that, oh man. I think if I had to make a prediction about the future, I think we're going to see humans on the moon first, then we'll see humans on Mars, and then we'll see humans on various small um, moons throughout the solar system. Titan is probably going to be. I'm guessing Titan will be our third settling point in our solar system. I think the SpaceX Starship is going to be probably the vehicle that will transport the highest number of people over the next, let's say, 5 or 6 decades. But I think NASA and probably the Orion capsule will probably be the first to send people. Um, NASA has a smaller system, a simpler system, but SpaceX is really thinking towards the future. So I think NASA is going to be our stepping stone, and then SpaceX is going to sustain the rest of human space flight for quite a while. Um, I would like to see space become incredibly accessible for people. I know it's expensive, but if we can, if more people can be out there doing research, living, figuring out what it's like, just running a society on some other planet. How does government work? How do laws work? Who owns what? How do you do you buy land on the moon? Is that something that we can do? What about the environment on these other planets? How do we, ensure that we're not contaminating things, and how do we ensure that we have already looked every single possible place for life on these planets before we start putting all our stuff up there and possibly contaminating, something that could have had fossilized life or something like that, where, I don't want us to be in a position 100 years from now saying, oh wait, crap, if we hadn't messed with this system, we could explore and we might have found life that lived on Mars or somewhere else before. So, how are we taking care of these brand new places? I think that's my questions and my predictions for the future. I hope it'll be accessible. That's like one of my core beliefs, I think.
And you touched on something that has come up in a couple interviews, and that's the concept of us polluting space or damaging space.
Mm-hmm.
And, as a reason of maybe we shouldn't explore space. And I know you're like a space advocate, and you also want to be responsible.
Uh-huh.
How do you find that balance? Like, how do you keep from like completely constraining yourself at the
Mm-hmm.
risk of, I mean, you're going to make mistakes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you figure, and, some things can't be learned until after you've made a mistake, I mean,
Yeah.
how do you navigate that?
So first of all, I don't think that we should use that as an argument to not go to space. I don't think we should say, oh, something's going to be polluted, so we shouldn't go to space at all. I think that moving to space is going to be able to help us with pollution and messing with wildlife on Earth in the first place. I think it's a good idea to move part of our species or continue to move out into the stars. I think that, as with any type of exploration, there's going to be accidents, and I think that is something that we have to prepare for. When Christopher Columbus was coming to America, and people started to move over here, and we had ships going across the ocean. Of course, there were things being polluted, and there were accidents, and there were deaths. And I think that is something that is going to happen in spaceflight. It's something that you don't really want to talk about, but it's something that is going to happen, and you have to figure out how to prepare for it. And it all comes down, I think, to understanding and recognizing that bad things are probably going to happen. And once you understand that, it comes down to how can we prepare for everything that could happen. There will be, it's dangerous. Spaceflight is incredibly dangerous. You're taking a sack of biology and you're putting it into an environment that it was never designed for at all. It's literally the most remote you can get from sitting just on the surface of the Earth here, where our bodies are incredibly happy with the temperature and pressure and food and daylight cycles and winds and everything. And you're putting us up in this environment where our bodies are not designed to do this at all without a huge spacecraft maintaining all these systems for us. And I think that failure analysis and just figuring out all the ways that something could go wrong and preparing for them in the best way possible is what we have to do. I don't think that the danger should be an argument to not go to space, because to advance society and to advance our technology and exploration, we have to take risks. And I think spaceflight is one of those risks that we need to be prepared for. And actually, I mean, I guess that's it. I guess it really just comes down to preparing for the worst. What's that saying? It's like hope for the best and prepare for the worst. I think it's something like that, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and in reality, our ability to access like the moon or Mars is going to be extremely limited at the beginning. I mean, like,
Yeah.
this is probably a next generation problem in terms of really doing stuff. And
Yeah.
I mean, you can always kind of be thoughtful and say, we don't know what we don't know, so let's make sure we don't get in a completely unreversible area. And maybe you just have
Mm-hmm.
like preserves. You're like, we're
Mm-hmm.
just going to keep this half of the moon and not touch it because
Yeah.
maybe maybe that's where the gold is, but the gold should be equally distributed, kind of. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's some on this side first, and what have you.
I think having a sort of national parks system in the uh, in bodies that we go to explore, I think that's incredibly important. I mean, I'm a big hiker and biker, and I love to go into nature. Um, the Olympic National Park just up in Washington has some of the most beautiful hikes that I've ever been on, with the most incredible lakes and just natural features. And being so passionate about that, I think I'm a big advocate of trying to maintain those same types of areas in the other planets we go to, because I think the coolest adventure ever would be one day being able to hike a volcano or a mountain on Mars or on the moon, or walk down a canyon or something like that. That would be awesome. And so, you know, beyond just exploration, it's important to conserve it for so many different reasons. And having the legislation and the governing bodies that can do that, having that in place before we start sending thousands of people there, that's important for sure.
Yeah. Definitely a lot to figure out, and the next 10 years I think are going to be pivotal. And I, I think your trip to well, I don't think I'll be going there in my 40s and 50s, but maybe my 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
And I think you'll definitely make your 40s and 50s for the opportunity to go to Mars. That'd be
that
fantastic.
would be awesome. That would be absolutely awesome.
I really appreciate your time. Is there anything that you
Yeah.
want to talk about that we didn't get to?
I guess one question I have for you is, how has your perspective on all of this changed from talking to so many people? I mean, surely my guess would be that you see things differently now, and understand things differently than you did a year ago. I guess, how has your perspective and ideas changed, and what has been sort of the greatest change for you?
Yeah. So one thing is, very few people know that we're going to the moon in 2024.
Hmm. Uh-huh.
And since I've been doing the interviews online, kind of the proportion of people knowing versus not knowing has changed.
Huh. That's
Family
awesome.
and friends. I mean, because my original plan is to do all these interviews in person. People at
Oh, uh-huh.
Starbucks, at the mall, at the airport, and from
Uh-huh.
like December to the middle of March, I interviewed people on the streets of Houston, at the coffee shop, on the streets of Minneapolis, on the streets of
That's awesome.
London, York, Edinburgh, on the
Wow.
train,
Uh-huh.
just
Did you just go up and talk to people, or
yeah.
did you have schedule? Really? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, that's my plan. This whole schedule thing's all COVID related. My
Uh-huh.
plan was to go to impromptu and no warning whatsoever. Let's
That is
talk about,
awesome.
you know, hey, what do you think about us going back to the moon? And would you go? And that
Uh-huh.
type of thing.
That's
So
cool.
the nature definitely changed. And I think we're like have twice as many online interviews at this point as in-person interviews. So I'm really
Yeah,
looking forward to going back to in-person at some point
I bet.
soon.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, but I'd say several things. The idea that we could pollute the moon is not something that I
Mm.
really gave any considerable thought to.
Uh-huh.
A friend of mine I was interviewing, and she was saying that she didn't think we should go. She's like, we messed up the Earth. Why mess up the moon too?
Mm.
Which I thought was
Mm-hmm.
kind of ironic because in some ways, maybe that Earthrise photo that was taken as we went around the moons was part of the environmental awakening
Mm-hmm.
of us. So it's like, it almost feels like us going to moon created the conditions by which we may not go back to the moon type of thing.
Huh. Interesting.
Um, but what I've learned also is people are very generous.
Mm.
People are out there willing to help you,
Uh-huh.
and willing to give a little part of themselves, willing to have a discussion. Um,
Mm-hmm.
people are generally excited about going back to the moon. There's a lot of concerns about what's the benefit. Will
Hmm.
and if there is a benefit in terms of us going to space, how can we make sure that benefits everybody as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
just like the wealthy?
Yep.
So there's sort of that dynamic there. There's lots of people that are active in space. I mean, I've gotten to interview the CEO of Paragon Space Systems. They're making the life support for the
Oh, I think I've heard of them before.
yeah Grant
That's awesome.
Anderson. Yeah,
Huh. Well, it's a Paragon Space.
yeah, they're over there in Tucson, Arizona. And it
That's
was
right.
started by Jane Poynter and Tabor McAuliffe, who were two of the people that lived in the biosphere for 2 years.
Oh, no
Biosphere
way.
2. Yeah, and now they started a new company called the Space Perspective that's going to
Huh.
be launching these 9-person pods that carry 8 passengers and a pilot up to like 100,000 feet, and it's like a
Oh, and the
6-hour trip.
balloon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow,
So
man.
that that's how that company got started. Um, but yeah, I mean, and yesterday I was interviewing a person that was sort of like me, um, except a little further along the path. He's in
Mhm.
the Navy. He's like an HR manager, but he wants to get into aerospace engineering. So he's like
Uh-huh.
working on a master's in space systems. And
Uh-huh.
he was giving me lots of cool advice and things to look at. So it's like, whoa,
That's awesome.
I know.
Wow. Sounds like so many cool people you've got to talk to.
Yeah, and one of the people, like I was in York, not New York, but York, as in like York,
Oh,
UK, like a
oh, oh,
2-hour train trip north of London, York.
uh-huh.
And it was like at the end of the day, and I had interviewed somebody, and they were riding up the elevator at the hotel, and I'm like, hey, can I interview y'all? And it turned out to be like a 15-minute in the hallway conversation. It's like really
Wow.
cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So. Um,
Man.
I don't know if 5 years is the right time frame for a project like this. Maybe 10 days would be enough to kind of get the benefit.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Yeah.
but
I
I
mean,
I think it
maybe you
might
could
be
switch it
good.
to like once every week or something like that, if it keeps going on for a long time.
Yeah, no, I feel like at this point I'm pretty much committed to this format, daily.
That's awesome. Uh-huh.
But I mean, I think that a good thing is whenever you create a project like this, having an end date is a good idea. Like
Mhm.
I'm literally have numbers like I got 1,500, and I'm not sure what the
Uh-huh.
number is, but it's in the 1,500s.
Uh-huh.
Like yesterday was 1,563. This is 1,562. So I have
Wow.
1,561 more to go, and then
That's
we'll
crazy.
be done.
You you know what would be really cool is if you turned some of them or excerpts from some of them into a podcast. I would love to listen to that. Even if you just took the raw audio and actually I guess you have it on your website, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Huh. Maybe I'll have to play some of those just on car rides because I would love to listen to those.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like the having like a monthly like summary was like maybe a little bit more in depth, like what's our progress this month and what are people thinking about it, and where we're
Uh-huh.
going, might be a good thing to do. One thing I gotta say is I try to uh, talk about things that are unique to each individual, but
Uh-huh.
there's a bit of a repetition to the, the interviews. So
Yeah.
uh,
Uh-huh. I can imagine. Yeah.
but
What's your website again?
countdowntothemoon.org.
Cool. Haha. That is awesome. All right.
Yeah. So it's been good. I think I probably spend several years listening to these after I get done recording them too. It's going to be kind of interesting to see what's my perspective about my perspective now, like
Uh-huh.
in 2025, 2026 timeframe.
Yeah,
So,
man, that's awesome.
well, a good deal. Well, I look forward to staying in touch online, and
Yes, for sure.
good luck with all your projects. I mean, that's really exciting to actually like see stuff being made and flown and tested. So exciting.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it was great talking with you, and I love the project, and I'm definitely going to play some of your other interviews just in car rides or whatever to hear what other people have to say. And best of luck to you with all these future interviews.
I thank you. And if you know anybody that'd be willing to sit down and chat, even if they're not space related, actually, I would even say
Uh-huh.
if they're not space people, because that was like the original
Uh-huh.
perspective that I was trying to get.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I will do that for sure. I'll let them know.
Okay. Well, take care.
Great. Thank you so much. See ya.
Thank you. Bye bye.